Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something very interesting to take a look at. We have a Futabasaurus model, and this model is released, I guess, by Wave Corporation. This is something that has recently shown up on Big Bad Toy Store, and I was pretty darn interested in it because it's not something we often see on there, are random plastic model kits anymore. It's something that kind of disappeared for a while, but luckily they really are making a comeback. We've got this, we've got the Planosaurus or Planosaur, whatever they are, from Bandai figures, and we've also got a T-Rex, a Jurassic Park T-Rex one coming from Star Ace at some point. So it's pretty cool to see, the return of the plastic model kit. This obviously shows a beautiful image here on the front of the box of the Futabasaurus, and if we come down here, you can get basically a nice little sneak peek at what the model itself looks like, kind of a preview here of what it would look like when it's completed. And then as we move along here, again, another image that's pretty much the same thing we had seen on the front of the box. And then on the back here, you can also yet again see an image of the model again here, and an image next to a human being, giving you an idea of the size. And then, of course, the same thing that we had seen on the front. Now, if we actually pop the box open, when it comes to a model kit like this, pretty typical. You've got a whole bunch of pieces in here that we would have to construct and put together, which we will do here as we go on. And then there is also a base. And what's good about this is it doesn't look like there's all that much. I wouldn't expect there to be, but there's not too many pieces in here, so it should be pretty easy to put together and pretty quick to get this put together, and then we'll have to get it painted and everything. But you can also see here on the inside that we've got some more stuff. Actually, I guess it just comes out. We've got like a little booklet here with another image of the model. Unfortunately, I can't really read any of it because it's clearly not... Oh, it does tell me that it's in 1/35th scale up there. You can't really see it, but it does say 1/35th scale. So that's pretty cool. But it basically gives you instructions on how to build your kit and, kind of bring it to life. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together really quickly, and then we'll come back and check it out from there. So as you can see, we now have the model put together, and it definitely looks really, really cool. And you actually have two different options that you can go with as far as posing it, because you also have a different head and neck that comes with it. So you can see that you can swap out this head for that head, and you can make one of the heads have a closed mouth or the open mouth, and then of course you would have like the potential to put the neck on like this, where it's up and then curved a little bit there. It looks really cool, really elegant look to the neck of that particular version, but I went with this one because I think it looks really cool and just gives me the vibe and feeling of the Futabasaurus fishing, or of course trying to catch itself a meal. I think it was a really cool look for the model with this sort of visual, and it sits on the stand really, really nicely, which is also really cool, especially as far as a display goes. So we're going to go ahead and jump to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see clearly the head sculpt is really quite small, but we can take notice to the eyes, the nostrils, all of that fun stuff. Also some decent looking skin texture there on the top of the head. Of course, like I had stated, the mouth is in an open position. You can see the teeth are sculpted out, as is the tongue. Not a whole lot going on in there as far as detail, but I think it looks pretty darn good for what it is, especially considering its size. As you move back here into the neck, you can see an area where the head was connected to the neck. I'm going to try to use some putty to hide that, because it definitely doesn't look that obvious on the promotional images, so I'm hoping that I can kind of conceal that area. As you move back a little bit more, you can see a seam here as well, because those pieces kind of snap together, and that's exactly what this model is. It's one of those kind of snap fit models where you just kind of piece them together and you snap them together, and you can see overall it looks really good just straight out of the box and put together when it comes to that kind of snap fit sort of style. Like, they snap together pretty tight, and I don't think that you really need to do a whole lot as far as, filling seams or anything to make it look all that good. I don't know for sure if I'm going to fill all of the seams. Like, you can obviously tell there is one here running along the back. I may or may not seal that up. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like it's probably going to be a giant pain in the butt to seal those up, but you can see it's a little bit loose here on the underside. This one I think would probably have to get filled up, but the seams aren't too bad and it does snap together pretty nicely. But as you move down the course of the neck, you can see again some really nice kind of like bumpy skin texture. It looks pretty darn good overall. Same sort of style of skin texture here to the underside of the neck as you move down. And as we continue to move closer to the body, you start to kind of see like some creasing in the skin, and you see more of that as you lead here along the underside of the model. And you can also see leading out into the flippers. The flippers look really nice actually as far as the sculpt goes. Like, they really do have a beautiful, very highly detailed appearance to them. And it's pretty impressive to see how nice this model is, especially when it comes to a company I've never actually heard of before. So I'm really going to keep my fingers crossed that they produce more models in the future. I would definitely love to see more of this stuff. And you can see again leading out into the other side here, the flipper also looks great. And like I said, you know, with the kind of you just snap them in sort of look, you can see the seam doesn't look very obvious. It's not super obvious there for where the flippers kind of lead in to the body. Same deal here for the rear flipper, so that's a huge plus. And you can also see that the animal has a very nice swimming motion to it. You can see different positioning for the flippers which allow it to have that sort of swimming motion, especially considering the positioning of the neck and how it's really curved and obviously looks like it's pursuing something. I like that, you know, particular pose for it, and the fact that they've included that swimming motion in the sculpt. And you can also see as you lead along the course of the body, really nice looking skin texture. Again, I think it's going to be really fun to paint this one up and get a good idea of what it actually looks like when it's fully finished. You can see a little bit of a different look to the style of skin texture here for the underside compared to what we saw on the upper side as you lead out into the tail as well. You can see the tail is also curved in a downward position. So as far as this goes, it's really nice actually, like quite beautiful and definitely better than I was expecting it to be. And we also have the base here, the little stand. There's not a whole lot going on with this. It's just basically a black circle, and then there's a little rod that comes up out of it that you have to assemble. It's very simple. You just pop the rod in and then slide the hole, or actually the pole, I should say, into the hole of the underside of our model here to display it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually paint this up, and then we're going to take a look at the actual fully finished final product. So I have finished the paint work now on the Futabasaurus, and I'm actually pretty happy with the way it turned out. I think it was a pretty interesting paint job that I gave it. Very colorful, kind of flashy, but, you know, potentially realistic. I tried to go with that sort of darker appearance from up above with a little bit of flashiness. And then, of course, the lighter tones here on the underside, like you would expect to see on a marine reptile, kind of what you would, of course, expect to see on pretty much any sort of marine creature. And I will say, again, once you actually get some paint work on this, it really, really comes to life, really pops, and just has a very cool appearance to it. So I'm actually really happy with the final product, really excited about this model because, again, it's definitely something that previously I did not see coming, and it's from a company that I'm very unfamiliar with. So to see a model of such a very obscure species of marine reptile created so nicely, and on top of that so nicely detailed with a really cool pose and everything, definitely gives me hope that we might see more of this stuff in the future. And this is definitely, again, another model worth picking up, and it's really inexpensive. I think it was probably maybe around like the $20 range, maybe 25 bucks or so, like something like that for a model like this, you know, that you have to build and everything is really nice. Again, a nice price for something like this. And the final product clearly looks awesome. Again, the really cool pose, very snake-like neck on our Futabasaurus. And again, hopefully you guys like my paint job and, you know, you like the way it turned out. I'm definitely happy with it. I try not to usually do such flashy paint jobs, but I'm kind of like becoming more accustomed to it lately. I've been kind of giving some of my figures and models a little bit flashier paint schemes, and this one I felt like looked pretty cool. Definitely something that I didn't have any inspiration for, just something that I came up with in my head as I was painting it. But again, really, really impressive for sure, especially, like I said, from a company I've never heard of. It's an absolutely awesome model. And then again, once you have the model ready to be put onto the base, you have that little peg there that you just slide it into. And once you slide it in there, it stays on the base very nicely. Like, it has a super cool visual. I think the only thing that maybe could have improved this would have been like a clear base or something that kind of looked like water. I think could have been a neat idea to sort of give it that more water-like look rather than just like a black plastic stand. But Still really happy again with the entire thing. It just looks super cool. As far as the size goes, lengthwise, if we go from the tail to the snout, we are looking at about 8 inches or about 20 and a half centimeters, somewhere in that vicinity. And height-wise, in this position here, you could, of course, have the other neck that's a little bit higher. You're looking at just shy of about 4.5 inches or around 11, maybe a little over 11 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Futabasaurus. And you can see it looks really cool, and you can see that it definitely has a nice size to it, but it's not huge. At 1/35th scale, it's not a massive model overall, and you can definitely see that in comparison to all of these figures here. It looks like it's about to try to kill Muldoon, though, as that head is just kind of reaching out over there to get him. But definitely, again, not an absolutely massive model by any means. And there are some randoms with the Collect Day Dimetrodon, the Safari LTD Tyrannus, and Schleich Diabloceratops next to the Futabasaurus as well, just to continue to give you an idea of the size and the fact that it's a nice reasonable size for sure. And here's an interesting comparison, because if you happen to have the Collect Day Elasmosaurus from a few years ago, you can see they are very similar in size. At least in length, they're not far off at all. I would say the Elasmosaurus might be a little bit longer, but the Futabasaurus definitely has a bit more body mass. We also have the Collect Day Megalodon, so you can see a pretty massive difference in size between these two. But for more aquatic comparisons, here is the Collect Day Shastasaurus from this year, another very cool aquatic species. And of course, Collect Day releases tons of really cool aquatic species. They're very good at that. And to show you that for yet another one, we've also got their Lioplorodon. So if you happen to have this figure, this one would be a pretty good one, I think, to give you a fairly decent idea of a size comparison. We also have the PNSO Chronosaurus here, another incredible marine species here created into an incredible model from PNSO, next to our Futabasaurus. And for another comparison, there is the PNSO Tylosaurus next to the Futabasaurus, yet again, to give you another idea of a size. But for one final comparison, here is the Bullyland Ichthyosaurus, again, just to hammer out one comparison with a different marine species if you happen to have one of these different companies, including some of their figures in your collection, then maybe you will have had at least one of these to help give you an idea of a size for this new model. So this brand new Futabasaurus model kit is absolutely awesome. I'm really a big fan of this, and honestly, when I had placed my pre-order for it on Big Bad Toy Store, I was like, well, it's cool, it looks nice, I'm just going to buy it because it's a fairly decent price for something like this, and I really do love the plastic model kit. I'm really excited to see that stuff kind of make a return, and didn't have a whole lot of excitement toward this, but actually having it here now, finished, built, painted, it really is a stellar model. Definitely a stunner and a really striking model. I think no matter what color scheme you go with on this, the sculpt and the overall appearance of this is good enough that it's really going to shine, because you have on top of a really nice, very highly detailed sculpt, you have a really cool pose for it. I like the fact that you can kind of switch out the necks to go with either version, whatever you would like as far as, what positioning for the neck you want. I'm definitely partial to this particular position, and again, it gives me that feel of it feeding, which I really like. I think that's a very cool visual. If I had a fish and some way to kind of display the fish in front of it, I think I would definitely display it like that, because it just has a perfect visual of the animal feeding. But on top of that, again, the fact that they give you that plastic stand so that you can kind of put it down into it and keep it up off of the ground, giving you that fantastic visual of it swimming, is just really cool. Definitely a great idea on their part. So I'm a huge fan of pretty much everything about this. Again, the sculpt, the fine detail, and the fact that it's a model kit. You get to build it and paint it yourself, which is always so much fun. And the fact that it's not all that expensive is definitely also a great part about this. Again, I think my paint job turned out pretty nice. I don't paint marine creatures very often, so I'm not that great at it. I've only painted probably, this might be my third ever, maybe my third. I'm thinking it might be my third. ever, so I'm not that great at it, but I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. I think it looks pretty natural overall, even if it is a bit flashier, and definitely gives the model a nice striking visual as a whole. So you'll have to let me know in the comment section what you guys think of my paintwork, if it looks good or not, but also let me know if you guys are interested in picking this up for yourself, and if you are, I of course will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Big Bad Toy Store. I don't know if this is any kind of like a limited release or anything, so as always, it's better not to wait. If you are interested, grab one right away, again, before it sells out or anything. I don't want you to miss it if you do want to get your hands on this. And make sure you, of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.